For spine-chilling true spring break tales, unexplainable horrors exposed in sinister locations, Jenna hopped off the bus, the salty air a sharp contrast to the suffocating humidity of suburban Ohio. Her heart raced with the thrill of spring break in Halcyon Bay, sun-soaked beaches, wild parties, freedom. But a chill prickled her skin, reminding her of the ominous texts from her brother. "Be careful, something's off in that town," he warned. Grinning, she brushed it aside. No way was she letting a text ruin this. Her friends laughed, pulling her along into the revelry of neon lights and pulsing music. As they wandered, Jenna's laugh echoed too loudly in her ears. The locals watched with an unsettling intensity. In the dim light of the bar, she locked eyes with a bartender whose gaze lingered. Charismatic, yes, but something shadowed his smile. Glancing at a nearby elderly woman, Jenna found her haggard face etched with worry. "Stay close to the light, you ladies," she rasped. "The night watchman watches you, and not all who stray back make it." Jenna rolled her eyes, brushing off the cryptic warning as folklore, just drunken chatter. But unease gnawed at her stomach. As evening swallowed the town whole, their laughter faded, overtaken by whispers of anxiety. The nightlife hid more than just thrill, there was a creaking darkness creeping around them. A fight broke out at a nearby bonfire, smashing glass, shouts, and ugly faces colliding in a rush of violence. Jenna stepped back, heart pounding. This was not the carefree night she'd planned. "Let's get out of here," Jenna urged, her instinct screaming. They decided to check out another spot, but one by one, her friends began to slip away, laughter turned into silence. Jenna felt the air grow thick, grasping at her throat like a vice. Out of sight, out of mind. Where did they go? Panic bubbled, rising like bile. The police shrugged off her concerns, their dismissive demeanor a cold shower on her hanging fears. In Halcyon Bay, danger spoke in hushed tones, woven into the fabric of their cozy facade. "Please, let me know you're okay," Jenna whispered into her phone, but the only reply was her own pounding heartbeat. A sudden text lit up her screen, her brother's name flashing. "Get out of there, Jenna. You're in danger." A rush of ice coursed through her veins. Was it too late? The night watchman wasn't a myth, the night was alive, suddenly brimming with vigilant, tangible danger. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jenna staggered backwards, her heart thumping wildly. The once charming bartender now moved through the throng with an unsettling purpose. Was it just her imagination, or did his smile twist slightly darker? She looked around, shadows loomed larger, swallowing hope. They were trapped. Her breaths quickened as the familiar faces of friends faded into the corners of her vision. Was the night watchman among them? Whispers turned to screams, echoes of fear crackling in the wind. Jenna's skin prickled, sensing the predator was closer than she dared think. Panic rose as she determined to locate her friends or find an exit. Maybe the bartender was he more than just a drink slinger? Unabella mysteries and terrifying possibilities danced in her mind. She knew one thing for sure, Halcyon Bay's cozy shell was deeper and darker than she'd ever imagined. As whispers turned to roars, her instincts urged her toward a truth that could unleash horrors beyond comprehension. Each haunting moment layered like fog as Jenna prepared to face what loomed within the shadows, desperate to unmask the reality. Behind the night watchman before the darkness consumed her whole. Jenna stumbled into the dimly lit alley, her breath coming out in short, desperate gasps. The pulsating beat of the music faded, but the echoes of the chaos behind her lingered like a haunting refrain. She glanced back at the creeping shadows, heart racing as she recalled the bartender's unsettling gaze. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing in on her like an oppressive weight. She could hear muted shouts in the distance, people still caught up in the events of the night. Each shout felt like a reminder that she could easily lose herself in this chaos too. Where were her friends? Panic clawed at her throat, twisting thoughts into a web of dread. Every crack and whisper in the stillness intensified her sense of vulnerability. Just keep moving, she murmured to herself, but her feet felt heavy. Every step submerged her deeper into the fear that gripped Halcyon Bay. She approached a flickering streetlight, its feeble glow barely penetrating the darkness around it. A dread sensation curled in her stomach as shadows danced along the ground, twisting and turning, mocking her desperate situation. As Jenna focused on the light, silhouetted shapes loomed at the edge of her vision. Her heart raced again, this time with the fear of what lurked just beyond her sight. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she couldn't let her imagination spiral out of control. But the night watchman was real, and his presence seemed to coil around her like a sinister fog. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from the spiraling thoughts. She fumbled for it, her hands trembling. It was another message from her brother. "Jenna, please listen. They know you're alone. Get to the old lighthouse." An icy shiver ran down her spine. The old lighthouse? Wasn't that a local legend? No one went there since it was supposedly cursed. The thought sent her heart racing with new urgency. She had to find shelter, a safe space where she could think and regroup. The lighthouse was her only way out, or was it bait? Moving through the shadows, she avoided eye contact with the locals who glanced her way, their looks heavy with knowing, as if they were aware of the danger she faced. A pair of eyes followed her, those unsettling, dark eyes of the bartender. She quickened her pace, adrenaline flooding her veins, her fears morphing into a haunting pursuit. Navigating through the winding streets felt like maneuvering through a maze that would only lead to dead ends. As she approached the outskirts, the crumbling silhouette of the lighthouse loomed in the distance, shrouded in a halo of fog. Each step echoed her anxiety, the dread fleshing out darker possibilities. The landscape grew eerily quiet as she neared the structure. Jenna clutched her phone tightly, the screen lighting her path like a fragile beacon. Just then, she heard a series of hurried footsteps behind her. They grew closer, purposefully. Dread seeped into her bones, urging her to flee, but the lighthouse was so close now. "Jenna!" A voice cry called, cutting through the silence. It was familiar, but distorted by fear and urgency. Her heart skipped a friend? Or was it another trick of the night watchman? Whirling around, she braced herself for whatever jumped from the shadows, but who or what would emerge? "Get down!" Another voice shouted, a mix of panic and aggression that sent Jenna reeling. The darkness thickened, swirling around her, heavy with threat. She stood frozen, pulse pounding like a drum, but curiosity and dread both drew her deeper into the terror. She had to make a choice, face whatever was coming or trust the clutches of silence behind the lighthouse door. "Do you dare to see who walks in darkness?" A whisper swirled in her mind, beckoning her to recognize the truth before her. What awaited on the threshold of the lighthouse, and would she find safety or the night watchman? The fog pressed in, wrapping around Jenna like an unwanted embrace. Her eyes flickered to the shadows, searching for the source of the voice. The urgency clawed at her mind. "Get down!" The shout roared again, closer now, shattering the eerie calm. Instinct kicked in, and she fell to the ground, her heart hammering. The sudden movement drew her closer to the shadow of the lighthouse, the dark wooden door now looming like an awaiting maw. The footsteps continued, the rhythm chaotic as if someone or something was in a sprint. She risked a glance over her shoulder. A figure emerged from the gloom, moving fast. The face was obscured, but the shape stood out tall and menacing. Panic welled again. Who was it? A friend or the nightmare stalking her? There wasn't time to decipher, because the figure strained against the darkness and hurtled toward her. "Jenna! It's me!" A voice gasped, desperate and frantic. Relief washed over her as she recognized her friend, Mia. But was relief misplaced? The second she saw her, Jenna was met with a horror-stricken face as Mia stumbled into the flickering light. What Mia began, but her eyes darted past Jenna, fixated on the approach from the alley, dread filling the space between them. "Run!" Jenna screamed, adrenaline blazing through her veins. Mia needed no further encouragement. They surged toward the lighthouse, desperation propelling them forward. Just as they reached the door, a guttural growl erupted from behind. It was closer, more alive than anything they had encountered before. Jenna swung the door open and pulled Mia inside, slamming it shut with a shuddering gasp. Inside, the air was stale and cold, filled with the scent of damp wood and forgotten memories. The darkness swallowed them, but a faint glow caught Jenna's eye, revealing a narrow spiral staircase leading up into the gloom. The tiny light flickered against the wall like a distant heartbeat. "Up," Jenna whispered, her voice barely rising above their harsh breaths. They ascended quickly, each step creaking ominously with their weight. Every sound became amplified in the silence of the lighthouse, echoing their fear back to them. Just as they reached the top, a loud thud erupted below. Jenna and Mia exchanged horrified glances, knowing whatever was after them was relentless. The door at the bottom shook violently, and indistinct whispers slithered through the air, echoing from the shadows behind the entrance. "Jenna, what was that thing?" Mia gasped, trembling. "I don't know," Jenna murmured, eyes wide. "But we can't stay here, we need to find a way out." As they prepared to turn back, a chilling voice broke through the silence, threading its way into their minds. "You shouldn't have come here." They froze, and a sense of icy dread washed over them. The figure from the alley materialized in front of them, eyes glinting like coals in the dark. It was the bartender, that eerie smile stretched across his face, a smile devoid of warmth. "Welcome to the lighthouse," he said, voice low and mocking. "I hope you enjoy your stay." Jenna's stomach twisted, realization dawning that this was more than a refuge, it was a trap. In that moment, tangled threads of dread and hopelessness suffocated her thoughts. "Let us just move," Mia started, but the bartender raised a hand, and the darkness seemed to surge forward like a tide. Jenna felt it pulling her closer, dragging her down, but then, a distant bell began to toll, a rhythmic clang, signaling something approaching, something ancient and powerful. The bartender's smile flickered as shadows coiled around him. "What is that?" Jenna's voice trembled, her instinct screaming at her to escape. Before they could react, shadows flared brightly, swallowing the room. A chill coursed through Jenna's veins. Something was about to reveal itself, something that could either save them or consume them. Whatever it was, they would soon have no choice but to confront it. "What comes next?" "The answer lies close, perhaps even within you," whispered the voice in her mind, tauntingly. What truth awaited them in the depths of this cursed lighthouse? The shadows dissipated, revealing a space cloaked in darkness, yet pulsating with an uncertain energy. The bell tolled again, echoing through the howling wind as if summoning something unseen. Jenna's heart raced, each beat a reminder of the danger pressing in around them. "Mia, we can't stay here," she hissed, pulling her friend toward an open window where the wind howled through the cracks. The cold air felt like sharp knives against their skin, but it was a welcome bite compared to the stagnant dread that lurked behind them. The bartender's laughter rang out, hollow and cruel, blending ominously with the wind. "You think you can escape? The lighthouse only lets you go when it is good and ready." Ignoring him, Jenna forced her focus on the swirling mist outside. A narrow ledge jutted out below them, precarious but promising perhaps a chance to escape. "We climb down. Now." Mia's eyes widened, hesitation creeping in. "Are you crazy? What if we fall? Or what if we stay and he comes for us?" Jenna pointed back at the bartender, who had stepped closer, his features sharpening through the dim light. The monstrous figure morphed with the shadows, his grin wide and eerie. "You're running out of time and options," he taunted. With a deep breath, Jenna grasped Mia's wrist firmly. "Trust me. She climbed over the window frame, her heart racing as she straddled the ledge and looked down. A dizzying drop awaited. Mia followed, her breath hitching as she grabbed onto the rough stone of the lighthouse. The air was thick and suffocating, each second stretching into eternity. Behind them, the door shuddered as the entity nearing them couldn't be contained any longer. The bell chimed again. They glanced back. The bartender stood there, unbothered by the chaos. "You can't escape fate," he called, voice delightfully cruel. Jenna inched down the ledge, fear of falling wrestling with the knowledge they had nowhere else to go. A gust pulled at her, an aggressive winter wind trying to knock her off course. "Come on, Jenna," Mia urged, her determination breaking through the fear. As if responding to that flicker of hope, Jenna summoned every ounce of courage and pressed farther down, each cautious step taking them to the unknown. The tolling bell changed tone, echoing deeper now, vibrating deep within the fabric of the lighthouse. Suddenly, the air crackled, electrifying their senses as shadows tried to latch onto them, reaching for their legs like desperate hands. "No!" Jenna gasped, yanking Mia closer. "Jenna, we should go back," Mia screamed, the terror evident in her voice. "What if we don't make it?" "No retreat," Jenna fired back. "We keep moving." Just as they reached a narrow crevice between the stone and wood, a monstrous roar erupted from the doorway above. The bartender's laughter transformed into a primal scream of fury, reverberating through the tower. Jenna's palms slicked with sweat as they wedged through the gap. "We're almost there," she encouraged, feeling the rush of adrenaline heighten with every heartbeat. Then, without warning, the ground beneath their feet trembled, and a massive wave of energy surged toward them. A blinding flash engulfed the space, illuminating the terror that was waiting to swallow them whole. In a single heartbeat, everything fractured. Walls pulsed and twisted, shadows writhed, and a figure materialized, larger than life, a vast silhouette that wore darkness as a cloak. "Your souls are entwined with the lighthouse now," it whispered, voice like gravel sliding over stone. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. They were running out of time. Escape had morphed into a desperate fight for survival, and she could sense the weight of their fate closing in. "Mia!" she shouted, only to see her friend's expression distorted with fear, staring at something behind Jenna. "What's happening?" Mia whispered, eyes wide. With a heart-stopping realization, Jenna turned slowly, to face the darkness looming behind her. The abyss stretched and swallowed the light, twisting it into a portal of nightmares. Jenna gripped Mia tighter as all hope of retreat crumbled. "Get ready," Jenna called, desperately trying to shield them from what was about to unfold, knowing they had no choice but to leap into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side? Could they face the horrors and still find a way out? Would the lighthouse keep its secrets hidden, or was this only the beginning? The moment they leaped into the void, time ceased to exist. The sensation was like falling through thick smoke, every nerve screaming, every instinct fighting against the engulfing darkness. Jenna's heart pounded mercilessly as they plummeted, adrenaline turning the fear into a primal urge to survive. She clung to Mia, her friend's weight anchoring her against the spiraling chaos. Then, the ground slammed against them. It felt like a collision with solid ice. Jenna gasped, feeling the impact jolt through her. They landed hard, but miraculously, they were alive. Disoriented, she blinked, fighting against the shadows that wrapped around them like suffocating tendrils. The air was thick and strove to pull them both under. "Jenna? Are you okay?" Mia's voice trembled, as panic edged into every word. The two girls struggled to their feet, eyes scanning the enveloping gloom. "I think so," Jenna replied, her voice small and hollow. She wanted to sound brave, but fear wrapped around her throat like a vice. "We need to move. Fast." They stumbled forward, tentative and wary, navigating through the endless fog that pressed against their skin. Every instinct screamed to turn back, that the horrors they had just escaped were still after them. The deeper they moved into the haze, the more the air crackled with a surreal energy, pulling them in all directions, warping their reality. Suddenly, a shattering scream echoed through the void, a cacophony of anguish that twisted Jenna's stomach into knots. What was that? Mia whispered, her eyes wide as saucers. I don't know, Jenna replied, her thoughts swirling in an anxious spiral. But we can't stand here. They pressed onward, but the rumbling grew louder, reverberating through the stones beneath their feet. With every step, they sensed a presence, an unseen force watching them, waiting. Jenna glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see the bartender's sinister smile lurking just out of sight. Only endless shadows loomed behind them. A shiver crawled up her spine. Jenna, look! Mia cried, pointing toward a faint flicker of light piercing through the oppressive darkness ahead. Hope ignited within Jenna, an instinctive urge to escape the suffocating dread. Let us go. She surged forward, pulling Mia along. As they neared, they could see it was a door, ancient and carved with strange symbols that twisted like the shadows around them. The scratchy sound of leather against wood echoed as something began to scratch at the door from inside. Is that something trying to get out? Mia shook with an unsettling mix of fear and thrill. Or something trying to keep us in, Jenna whispered, her voice trembling. Staring at the door, she felt that heavy presence against her back again, a chill creeping over her as something dark shifted just behind them. They reached the door, and Jenna pressed her palm against it, the cold wood sending bolts of awareness through her. The scratching grew frantic, heavy breaths emanating from the other side. Open it, Mia urged, eyes wide in panic. I can't just do it. We have to. With trembling hands, Jenna fumbled for the handle, each second dragging like an eternity. She turned it, the creak echoing in the eerie silence. The door swung open, revealing a blinding light that pushed against the darkness, almost alive in its brilliance. Jenna stumbled back, squinting against the brightness. Within that glare stood figures, their forms shifting and shapeless, illuminated by an unseen force but filled with dread. Whispers filled the air, incomprehensible yet resonating deep within her soul. Mia, we can't go in, Jenna stammered, but Mia had already stepped through, drawn by a lethal curiosity. Mia. No. Jenna lunged but felt a pull, a force dragging her toward the door's threshold. Voices spiraled around her, clashing like a storm. She tried to dig her heels in, but the shadows around her shifted like living tendrils, reaching out to claim her. Mia, she gasped, horror creeping into her voice as she lost sight of her friend in the blinding light. Where are you? The light screamed, a cacophony of sound merging with the shadows. Jenna could feel a pull deep in her gut, the abyss behind her was ready to claim whatever was left. All or nothing, Jenna. Mia's distant voice rang out, firm yet laden with fear. In that moment of utter darkness, Jenna was faced with a choice: dive into the brilliant unknown or retreat into the consuming shadow behind her. Then she screamed, and the darkness erupted with life. What would she choose? Could either path lead to salvation, or would they both fall into despair? The light blinded Jenna, a stark contrast to the shadows that cloaked her. She felt a pull, magnetic and inescapable, dragging her closer to the threshold. With one last scream for Mia, she stumbled forward into the brilliance, the world transformed in an instant. The blinding light swallowed her whole, sharp edges of reality fading away. Momentarily disoriented, Jenna blinked as colors thrummed around her, vivid and electric. She gasped, inhaling the sweet and sickly scent of decay hidden beneath the sweetness. Panic ripped through her as the light twisted into grotesque shapes. Mia. Her voice echoed unervingly in the glowing void. But there was no answer, only the low hum of sinister whispers spiraling around her. It was as if the very fabric of the light vibrated with the pain of those who had been trapped here before. Jenna took a hesitant step forward, refusing to lose her nerve. The haze thickened, and the shapes began to solidify. They morphed into twisted faces, mouths agape in silent screams, eyes wide with dread. In her gut, she felt the real terror. This wasn't a refuge, it was a cage. The flickering figures swirled around her, looming closer, icy fingers reaching out with intent. "Stay back!" she cried, backing away, but they hovered, an audience to her plight, feeding on her rising fear. Just as she turned to flee, the ground shifted beneath her. The floor felt like liquid light, pulling her into the maelstrom. She fought against the tide, desperate to find her footing, her heart racing. "Jenna!" Mia's voice broke through the noise, a beacon in the structural chaos. Jenna pivoted towards it, determination coursing through her veins. "Mia! Where are you?" she shouted. "I'm here. Follow my voice." Just as hope flickered, a rumble echoed, reverberating like thunder through the light. The ground trembled, lurching beneath her. She barely managed to stay upright as she searched desperately for Mia among the myriad of faces. "Jenna!" Mia called again, her voice cracking. "Help! Hold on!" Jenna shouted back, but the figures began to shift, blurring together, merging into one monstrous shape vulture-like with jagged edges, its eyes two hollow voids reflecting nothing. The sight paralyzed her. It lunged, and with terrible speed, it reached for her, stretching out shadowy arms. "No!" she screamed, darting to the side, adrenaline surging. She raced, propelled by sheer instinct, weaving through the swirling phantoms until she spotted Mia, entangled in a golden light, a stark contrast to the darkness surrounding them. "Mia!" Jenna stumbled into the radiant hand, feeling warmth pressing against her skin. "Mia, grab my hand," she urged, reaching out. Mia's eyes were wide with a mix of fear and relief. "I was lost, I thought you wouldn't find me. Just take it." Jenna felt the ground quiver again as more shapes emerged from the light, racing toward them. With a final burst of strength, Mia lunged and clasped Jenna's hand. The moment their fingers intertwined, the air erupted with a shockwave, brilliance pulsating out like a shot. Jenna felt dizzy, and the abyss behind them roared, desperate to reclaim its prey. Holding fast to one another, they dived deeper into the light. As they fell into the glow, the shadows shrieked, their cries morphing from anguished howls to guttural laughter that echoed relentlessly. Testing their resolve, Jenna and Mia broke through the veil and landed hard again, but this time the impact was different, a crushing sensation of being caught between two worlds, a flicker of hope battling against despair. "Where are we now?" Jenna gasped, finally catching her breath but feeling the shadows closing in, reshaping the space around them, hungry for their demise. "Whatever's in here, it doesn't want us leaving," Mia breathed, terror lacing her words. Just then, a figure appeared, silhouetted against dim light, an abomination born from their fears. They had traded one nightmare for another. Jenna's heart raced. "We need to find an exit." But as they turned, the eyes of the dark silenced their thoughts with palpable dread. "Do you hear that?" Mia whispered, eyes wide with horror. A voice, low and familiar, twisted from the shadows. "You should have never come here." The world tilted again, and panic gripped Jenna's heart as she realized some doors were never meant to be opened. But what awaited them in the dark? The figure loomed closer, its presence casting a deeper shadow over the flickering light. Jenna squinted, fear rooting her to the spot. The contours looked almost human, but the features twisted into a mask of rage and despair. It was as if it was crafted from their worst memories, raw and pulsating. "Mia," she whispered, her throat dry. "What is that?" Mia didn't answer. Her body trembled beside Jenna, eyes wide in disbelief. The air thickened, suffocating them with dread, and Jenna could feel that invasive, sickly sweet scent becoming overpowering. Almost instinctively, they took a step back, but the shadow advanced, hungry. "Mia, we need to move," Jenna urged, her voice wavering. Before Mia could respond, the dark figure raised an arm, long and gnarled, drawing chaotic lines in the air. "You think you can escape? This is your penance." The words rolled across the space like a chilling fog. Jenna felt dizzy, a tightness clamping around her chest. She turned on her heel, pulling Mia with her as they fled into the shifting chaos. Shadows writhed like serpents, reaching out, whispering promises of despair, their voices a cacophony of menacing laughter that danced around them. "Where do we go?" Mia cried, looking for something solid in the swirling landscape. Jenna had no answer. The shadows tightened their grip around them, and the air cracked with electric anticipation. Without warning, the floor beneath them cracked open, revealing a gaping void that seethed and bubbled with darkness. It was the echo of hopeless screams, a yawning abyss that beckoned them down. "Jump!" Jenna shouted, not thinking twice, and propelled forward. She felt the ground drop away as the two girls leapt into the chasm, tumbling freely into the unknown. They landed hard on a surface that felt like cold, wet stone. Gasping for breath, they scrambled to their feet, drenched but alive. The air was dense with humidity, a stark contrast to the dazzling illusion of light they had just escaped. Muffled sounds echoed in the distance. Jenna felt the dread coil tighter. They were not alone. "Do you hear that?" She whispered again, the previous thrill of adrenaline fading into paralyzing fear. Mia nodded, her breath quickening. "What is it?" The sounds grew louder, a hollow, rhythmic thumping followed by unearthly howls that made Jenna's stomach turn. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, creeping in and out of focus, and she felt eyes watching, thousands of them pressing against her mind. "Let us find a way out," Jenna muttered, taking a cautious step forward. The stone floor was slick, and she nearly slipped as they ventured deeper into the cavern. Around them, the shadows blended seamlessly with the walls, creating grotesque images that danced just outside their line of sight. Tension mounted as they pressed on. The atmosphere crackled with a charged energy, as if the very air was alive. Shapes flickered in their peripheral vision, too quick to compute, but Jenna felt their chilling presence like ice against her skin. "Jenna." Mia's voice trembled. "What if we never find a way out?" "Don't say that." Jenna snapped, trying to quash her own rising terror. But uncertainty clawed at her throat, and as they turned a corner, the chilling sounds intensified, wrapping around them like a physical manifestation of their fear. Suddenly, they burst into a wide chamber. The air thickened with an overpowering scent of decay, and in the center, an altar loomed, draped in shadows. Around it, flickering lights pulsed an eerie blue, illuminating faint inscriptions etched into the stone. "What is this place?" Mia murmured, taking it in. "I don't know." Jenna whispered, stepping closer. As she did, the shadows behind the altar writhed, shifting like dark liquid, taking form. "And it hungers," a voice echoed, sweet like honey but dripping with malice. The ground trembled under their feet, each word a blade that cut through the tumult of their resolve. "Run!" Jenna yelled, as realization dawned. The shadows weren't just watching, they were hungry. They turned, but the path was gone, consumed by the darkness. Panic surged through Jenna like wildfire. They were trapped, but what would happen next when they faced the ultimate horror? The shadows around the altar twisted and coiled like venomous serpents, their movements almost sentient. Jenna's heart raced, drumming against her ribs as she backed away, dragging Mia with her. The echo of that chilling voice grew louder, filling the cavern with a palpable tension, a sinister chant of hunger that reverberated through the chamber. "Where do we go?" Mia whimpered, her voice shaking with fear. Just keep moving." Jenna gasped, trying to hold the rising panic at bay. She glanced back at the altar, the shadows undulating beneath its surface, searching, waiting. There was no way they could stay here. They needed to escape. Taking a deep breath, Jenna led the way through the darkened passage that opened up beyond the altar. The walls pressed in on them, slick and clammy, and she felt the oppressive weight of the darkness closing in. The rhythmic thumping echoed through the stone, as if something was following, something alive and ravenous. Suddenly, Mia stumbled, her foot slipping on the icy stone. "Jenna!" she cried, grasping desperately at the edge of the wall. Jenna turned and lunged, grabbing Mia's arm just in time, though the tight grip felt like a vice. As she pulled Mia up, shadows flickered around them, whispering promises of despair. Jenna could feel them creeping closer, crawling over her skin like insects. "Keep going," Jenna urged, adrenaline coursing through her veins. They pressed on, breaths ragged amidst the damp air, when suddenly, the thumping noise shifted, a new sound layered over it, sharp and desperate. A series of splintering cracks reverberated through the chamber. Jenna froze, her breath hitching as she glanced up. The ceiling. It was collapsing. "Run!" she shouted, and they darted forward, the hoarse whispers of the shadows now a cacophony that urged them back, pulling at their heels. The ground shook beneath them, and fallen rocks began to scatter across the path. Jenna felt the weight of despair encroaching, each second sensing the shadows growing bolder, more aggressive. They were dragging her down into their depths. "Mia! Don't look back!" But the darkness shifted, and Jenna could hear Mia's frightened sobs, feel her friend falter. Jenna grasped her hand tighter, the slick stone making it impossible to gain firm traction. She could feel the shadows pulling at Mia's ankles, the sickening tug of something malicious trying to claim her. "Mia, please!" With a surge of strength that surprised them both, Jenna surged forward, dragging Mia into a narrow opening just as the shadows lunged, missing them by inches. They spilled into a side passage, heart racing, breath coming in ragged gasps. The new space was smaller and felt just as oppressing, the air thick with humidity that weighed down on them like a shroud. But it was quieter, for the moment. Jenna pressed her back against the wall, listening, straining to hear something beyond the pounding of her own heart. "Mia, are you okay?" I think so." Mia's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with fear. Jenna looked around. The walls were covered in ancient markings, swirling symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "What are these?" she thought aloud, her fingers brushing over the rough surface. As Mia caught her breath, suddenly a blinding flash lit up the chamber. Shadows screamed, swirling frantically like a tempest in response to the light. Jenna squinted, the brightness illuminating something, a doorway at the far end of the cavern. "Look! Over there!" But the shadows were alive, writhing with fury, as if the light had provoked them, awakening their primal rage. The howls escalated, a deafening chorus filling the chamber, driving Jenna to the brink of madness. "Mia, we have to go. Now!" With one last look at the seething darkness, Jenna sprinted toward the light, dragging Mia along. The door loomed tantalizingly close, but shadows whipped around them, clawing at their heels. The passage closed in around them, the air thickening with despair, the shadows surging forth in a final bid to claim them. Would the doorway lead to salvation or deeper into the void? As they reached the threshold, a shrieking wail echoed from behind, and Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched by their own dark memories embodied, hungry for their souls. With one final push, they leapt through the doorway, together, but what awaited them on the other side might shatter their sanity forever. Jenna's momentum carried them through the doorway, and as they stumbled into the new space, a wall of cold air slapped their faces. They fell to the ground, hearts racing, gasping for breath. The hair on Jenna's arms stood on end as an eerie silence enveloped them. The moment they crossed through, the frantic chaos of the cavern vanished, replaced by a stillness that felt like an impending storm. "Are we?" Mia whispered, her wide eyes reflecting pure terror, but Jenna couldn't finish the thought. There was something off about this place, like pressing her hand against the surface of a pond. It didn't feel solid. It felt like a lie. "Stay close," Jenna urged, pulling Mia up, her voice barely above a murmur. They found themselves in a dimly lit room, illuminated by an unnatural glow that seemed to pulse, casting strange shapes across the walls. Those ancient markings were here too, but twisted, more distorted, like a language lost to time. "Do you hear that?" Mia asked, her voice trembling as she pressed against Jenna. The faint sound of dripping water echoed, each drop heavy like an omen. Suddenly, a figure flickered at the edge of the light, barely visible, but Jenna caught a glimpse: long, thin limbs and a twisted face, grinning, with eyes that bore infinite darkness. It was there and then, gone before she could scream. "Mia, we need to move." Jenna's heart thudded in her chest, urgency slicing through her shock. They had to find a way out, but in this unsettling quiet, even their footsteps echoed too loudly, drawing attention. "What if it's watching us?" Mia shuddered, her face pale. "Then it can watch all it wants. We can't stay here." Jenna forced herself onward, navigating through the cramped space where the walls felt almost as if they were closing in, alive with whispers that sent shivers down her spine, dark murmurs of lost souls echoing dreams of despair. As they moved deeper into the room, the air grew thicker, suffocating. Shadows darted past, too quick and too wrong. Shapes without substance danced just out of sight, and Jenna felt the sharp prickling of being surrounded. It was as if the darkness itself was laughing at them. "Jenna, the door." Mia gasped, pointing towards what appeared to be an escape. A heavy wooden door, warped and gnarled, stood at the far end. Hope stirred within Jenna, mixed with the dread that they had not escaped just yet. With a renewed sense of urgency, they hurried towards it, the unsettling murmurs rising to a fever pitch behind them. The figures grew bolder with each step, their twisted bodies reaching out, fingers curling and uncurling like dry leaves in the wind. Just as they reached the door, Jenna hesitated. The air thickened, and a clammy fog seeped from the cracks, pulling at her. "It might be worse on the other side," she whispered, a deep instinct clawing at her throat. But there was no time for doubts. "Jenna!" Mia cried. The whispering shadows surged forward, urgent, devouring the last remnants of light around them. Jenna pushed the door, but it didn't budge. "Move!" she shouted, shoving against it with all her might. Mia joined in, their desperation tangible, but it felt like pushing against a mountain. With one final shove, the door creaked open only to reveal a staircase spiraling downward, draped in flickering light that seemed to beckon them in. "Oh no, no, no," Jenna muttered. There was something about that descent that felt wrong, as if it led to a place from which no soul returned. But before either could voice their fear, the shadows lurched, slithering closer, hungry for the warmth of their flesh. "Jenna, we have to get out of here." Mia's panic clawed at her words, propelling Jenna forward. They stepped into the unknown, driven by pure instinct, and plunged into the depths below. The darkness swallowed them, but as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing off the whispers and the shadows, a bone-chilling laugh echoed through the air. It reverberated in their bones, reminding them they were not alone. Was this descent into the oblivion of their worst fears? Or a gateway to their salvation? The further they went, the more the certainty of danger grew. But as they reached the bottom, a familiar voice twisted in the corners of Jenna's mind, beckoning her to remember something she had forgotten, something that had awakened the shadows. Would facing that truth save them, or was it already too late? The air thickened as Jenna and Mia reached the bottom of the staircase. It opened into a vast chamber lined with mirrors that stretched up into a void above, shimmering surfaces reflecting distorted versions of the girls. Panic clawed at Jenna's chest, each reflection showing glimpses of fear and vulnerability, visions that felt all too real. "Mia, stay close," Jenna urged, but her voice was barely audible amidst the low hum echoing through the space, a whispering chant that swirled and coiled around them like an unseen serpent. "What is this place?" Mia's eyes darted around, absorbing the eerie glow. "Why do I feel like we're being watched?" "Because we are," Jenna breathed, her heart hammering in her chest. The mirrors pulsed with a life of their own, every flicker of movement resonated, every echo filled the room with a tightening grip of dread. Suddenly, a reflection caught Jenna's eye. A figure lurked at the edge of one mirror, sharp features, Sinister grinned the bartender. Fear coursed through her veins. "Mia, we have to find a way out." The mirrors flickered, showing an image of their frightened selves, exhausted and cornered. Jenna's mind raced. They had to confront whatever horror waited here and unravel this nightmare before they were consumed. "Look for a way through," she directed, as they cautiously moved forward, the shadows still writhing around them. The whispers grew louder, almost taking shape. They were reliving their worst fears, their deepest regrets, taunting them. Each step felt like treading water in a storm, pulling them under. "Jenna!" Mia cried suddenly, stepping back in horror. "In that mirror it's us." The reflection twisted into visions of them standing alone in the night, their fears magnified, the noise of the party fading into nothingness, their friends lost forever. "That's just a trick," Jenna shouted, fiercely shaking off the sensation. "We have to keep moving." They darted down another path, adrenaline fueling their flight, but the mirrors followed, each one drawing in their fears like a sponge. Then, where shadows lashed and darkness whispered, Jenna spotted a flicker of light not far away. "There!" she shouted, running toward it. The light grew stronger, illuminating a small door nestled between two ominous mirrors, etched with strange symbols that pulsated rhythmically. She said, "It hungers." The memory of the voice echoed behind her, cold and hungry. Before Jenna could contemplate further, she pushed the door open, dragging Mia inside. They stumbled into a narrow space that felt ripe with energy, walls vibrating around them, alive. Jenna took a calming breath, grasping Mia's hand, anchoring them both. "This is it. We either confront this thing together, or we're lost." Mia nodded, but her fear was an almost tangible weight. Jenna knew they had to confront whatever entity was behind their torment, whatever had twisted the world around them into this nightmare. "Step back," Jenna murmured, closing her eyes for a moment. She remembered her brother's warnings, the strange folklore surrounding Halcyon Bay, the night watchman, the lighthouse, the hunger hidden within. When she opened her eyes, the shadows started to shift into forms, coalescing into a recognizable silhouette. The bartender stood before them, shadowy yet vividly malicious, his grin wide and knowing. "Welcome to the heart of your fears," he said, his voice smooth like silk coated in honey. "It looks the same as it did when you entered, clueless and lost." "No more games," Jenna snapped back, emboldened. "We're done being hunted. Let us end this." The figure only laughed, and shadows surged around him. "Endings begin with an understanding, dear girl. Do you even know what you're up against?" And then it hit her, the mirrors, all those fears, all the darkness reflecting back at them. "We're not just running from you. We're running from ourselves." Suddenly, the mirrors shattered, like glass exploding outward. Jenna shielded her eyes, but when she looked again, the burden of their fears seemed to lift. The shadows diminished, retreating into the corners, away from the slivers of light radiating from the broken mirrors. You took something from us," Mia shouted, the desperation in her voice resonating with clarity. "But we refuse to be trapped by our past." "Ah! Such defiance!" The bartender howled as the shadows behind him roared in response, seemingly weakened but still coiling dangerously. "Foolish girls. Foolish for believing the stories you twisted against us," Jenna said, stepping forward, drawing strength from Mia's unwavering presence beside her. "We are more than our regrets. We can forgive ourselves." With that declaration, a bolt of light burst forth between their clasped hands, transforming the air into shimmering energy. The shadows wavered, howling in frustration as the light expanded. "We set ourselves free," Jenna shouted, and with a surge of power, they broke through the darkness, shattering it and the bartender's hold once and for all. The energy spiraled, illuminating the entire chamber in a brilliant flash. As light engulfed them, Jenna felt a warm sense of release enveloping her. Around them, the walls collapsed as the dark entity screamed, its form disintegrating back into the darkness from whence it came. Breathless, Jenna and Mia collapsed, finding themselves on the beach of Halcyon Bay, the sun shining brightly as laughter filled the air. They looked around, soft waves lapping at their feet, familiar faces mingling in the distance. Did we make it?" Mia whispered, incredulous, scanning the lively beach front. "Yes," Jenna breathed, a lightness flooding through her. "I think we did. We're free." They stood, wrapped in their friendship, the sun warming their skin and a cool breeze sweeping away remnants of fear. Halcyon Bay had a deceptive charm, but now they understood its secrets. They had faced darkness and emerged victorious. As they stepped back into the vibrant atmosphere, Jenna felt a weight lift, liberated from the bonds of their fears. They weren't just survivors, they were changed. Together, Mia said softly, reflecting the truths that reshaped their lives. Jenna smiled, heart swelling with hope. Always. And behind them, the shadows retreated, rumored yet unseen, dissolving into legends of the night, now merely whispers in the wind, fading into nothingness. So, remember, never let the darkness take you. And never forget the light that burns brightly within. Now, before you pack your bags and hit the beach yourself, make sure to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss out on the next gripping saga. You must smash that like button now to fuel our journey and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts. What did you think of Jenna's horror? What are your theories? Let us know. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our channel through these actions.